As you may have been able to tell from some of my recent videos, I just went on a trip throughout East Asia. If you need a recap, the cities I went to were Hong Kong, Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore, and also Sydney. However, for everything from food to public transport to accommodations, I found myself paying very different prices in each country, and not just because of the different currencies. So why are some countries so much cheaper or more expensive than others? If you have ever traveled somewhere, especially to countries that are either a good deal richer or poorer than your own, you might have noticed that some places are certainly a lot more expensive than others. I mean, in Kuala Lumpur, a kebab would cost maybe a maximum of 10 ringgit, whereas a kebab in Sydney would cost more like 10 Australian dollars. Or something like that. I don't know, I didn't go in there because they were so much more expensive. Also, I'm kind of stingy when it comes to money. The point is, there seems to be a strong correlation between the average wealth of a country and the average cost of goods and services. For example, let's compare Kuala Lumpur and Singapore, two large Southeast Asian metropolises, both situated about 350 kilometers apart on the Malay Peninsula. Well, mostly. But anyone who's been to both cities will tell you that Singapore is a lot more expensive than KL. So what's going on here? Well, while Malaysia isn't exactly a poor country, Singapore is still much richer. Malaysia's GDP per capita as of 2017 is $9,994.90, while Singapore's is $57,714.30, according to the World Bank. With that in mind, according to Numbeo.com, in KL, an inexpensive restaurant meal will cost around $3.63 US, whereas a similar meal will cost around $7.39 in Singapore. By the way, I'm just going to use US dollars to make things easier. A liter of milk will cost around $1.66 in KL and $2.28 in Singapore. A liter of gas is 52 cents versus $1.69. A one-way public transit ticket is about 73 cents compared to $1.26. And the monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment in the city center costs a little under $600 in KL and over $2,000 in Singapore. If you want to look at more examples of where I got these numbers from, I left a link in the sources section of the description. Of course, there's also one more metric I should show: average monthly salary after taxes. In KL, it's a little under $1,000, whereas in Singapore, it's over 3 times that. The main reason for different cities and countries having very different prices for more or less the same things has to do with the different standards of living. What this means is that the richer the country, the more people often make from providing the same services, and thus prices will also start to rise. Basically, as the average resident of a particular place becomes richer, prices will also need to increase. This is a process known as inflation, which is also the reason why just printing money won't solve a country's deficit problems, for example. After all, if you were to give everyone in the country $1 million, it wouldn't increase the supply of the finite goods and services available, so the prices for said goods and services would have to rise in response to now overwhelming demand. However, there are also other factors that go into prices changing between countries, which can be measured even further with everyone's favorite economic analogy, the Big Mac Index. Since McDonald's serves 119 different countries and core menu items like fries and Big Macs are available everywhere, even where other items aren't, the Big Mac is thus often used to compare prices around the world. You see, the components that go into a Big Mac, or any burger, involves more than just the physical goods, like bread, beef, tomatoes, and all those other ingredients, but also farmland to grow the food, farmers to harvest everything, truckers to transport it all to the restaurants, employees to prepare meals, land and construction costs for the building itself, electricity costs to keep the lights on, and so on and so forth. With this in mind, a Malaysian Big Mac therefore costs $2, while a Singaporean Big Mac costs $4.28. In short, if the Big Mac were to be sold in Sweden for the prices you would get in Ukraine, McDonald's would lose revenue, as goods and wages cost more in Sweden than in Ukraine. The key point to remember about all this is that this is more focused on services, not necessarily goods. Goods can be cheaper in poorer countries, but the prices of goods depend on manufacturing and shipping costs. After all, an Ecuadorian banana will still have a long way to go to reach either Stockholm or Istanbul. This is also why prices are so high in places like Venezuela or Angola, despite not exactly being the richest places in the world. However, services cannot be so easily transferred. A black cab ride from King's Cross to Piccadilly Circus in London will be more expensive than a tuk-tuk ride from Hua Lamphong to the Grand Palace in Bangkok, simply because a Bangkok-based taxi driver can't exactly do much for you in London. Of course, I should probably clarify that you can generally haggle for the price in Bangkok, and in London you can of course just take the tube. Basically, if two pizza shops opened up across the street, one selling $1 slices and the other $3 slices, of course people would flock to the former, but now put the pizza shops 10,000 kilometers apart and across several international borders, and people's options on either side suddenly become much more limited. So yeah, TLDW, the more people make, the more money they can spend, and thus the more prices have to rise. Basically. Thanks for watching. Now, I'm not exactly the most knowledgeable person when it comes to economics, so a big thanks to Mr. Beat for helping me out with the script for this. As always, if you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe to learn something new every Sunday.